biggest misconceptions out there about building wealth is that it's like it happens overnight. It's some type of get quick rich type of thing. And I think that's because a lot of times we see in society where they talk about, overnight success or, lottery winners and stuff like that. But what's rarely talked about or seen are, those intentional decisions that takes time over years to come to fruition, right? And that's why I feel like building wealth is a long game. Right, it reminds me of, if I look back over my life, from my time in serving in the military to, investing, buying rental properties, now paying off my mortgage, it's not something that happened overnight. It was like day-to-day decisions that built that over time. So when I really look back on it, in regards to building wealth, there were some things that jumped out to me that I think really helped propel it. I'm not saying to make it happen quicker, but it made sure that, I was on the right path. So one of the things that, I remember, in regards to building wealth and my financial freedom journey is my mindset, right? You have to look at what type of mindset do you have, or how do you identify yourself, right? So if you're looking, if you look at yourself as a spender, like every time you get money in your pocket, it's like burning a hole in your pocket. You're a spender versus a saver. That's going to impact how you build wealth, right? Do you have a poverty mindset over one of prosperity? Right? Do you have a give, a generosity mindset? All of those type of things come into play when you're thinking about the future, long-term stability, generational, right? Not something that, that can dissipate or, disappear tomorrow. So your mindset, how do you see yourself? What is your relationship with money about? Are you still telling yourself old stories that you grew up with, years ago? Has that changed over time? So that's one thing that really is important when it comes about, building wealth is your mindset. Another one, and some, may not even think about it, but I definitely think it's important, is to who you're hanging out with, right? Like sometimes you have to audit your circle, right? Who are you hanging out with? Who are you listening to? Who are you listening to? I remember Dave Ramsey would always say, never take advice from a broke person, right? I mean, it may sound mean, but, really, how can you tell somebody something about money or just freedom or wealth in general if, you don't have it yourself, or you over here wilding out, that type of stuff. So do you really, I think that it's important that you surround yourself with like-minded, not just like-minded, like-hearted people, right? People that, I'm not saying people that think the same as you, but it's like, okay, you kind of have the same philosophy in a way in regards to the future and how to handle money, and that type stuff. So if you have friends that's always, want to go out and go out clubbing or going out to eat all the time, you might want to take a look at your circle, especially if you're trying to save up for something big, or, start investing, or to put money down on a house, that type of stuff. You want to be around those people that talk that same language as you. I like to say that talk that money talk. Right? So that's another area that, I think that's very important to, keep in mind when you're on your financial freedom wealth building journey. So another big thing is to, start where you are, right? Don't keep looking around at other people, like they say, keeping up with the Joneses, or what this person has or what that person has. You're over here comparing your chapter 1 to their chapter 12. We're not, right? So just start where you are, no matter the size. If you're working, if your, company offers you, 401k matching, what they call free money, take it, right? Or I know people that, instead of investing in, like the 401ks and stuff like that, they buy life insurance, like whole life insurance and that type of stuff. There's so many various ways, but you start where you are. Perfect example, there's this other YouTuber, the channel is Maximize Money. I know that she actually helps women start investing with as little as $100. right? So it's not like you have to have all this money already saved up, or you're a trust fund baby, or all of those type of things. The biggest thing is just starting where you are, taking baby steps, not rushing it, being patient. Educating yourself is another big one. I tell you guys all the time how I started my journey, how I had to educate myself. And you know what? And it doesn't stop. I'm still learning. I am still learning. Just like maybe it was about a month ago, I read this book called The Risk Worth Taking. It was such a good book, and eventually it was about investing, but she wrote it as a novel. But there's 4 things that she talked about. Like, she talked about you need to have clarity, you need to have confidence, you need to have courage, and I can't remember the last one, but get the book and read it for yourself. But educate yourself on those things that you don't know, right? Because as I mentioned before, finances is personal. So how I might invest or build wealth may be completely different how you might want to do it. And before I go any further, right, this is not investing advice. I'm not here to tell people what stocks to invest in or none of that. I'm just giving you some insight on how I think, what made me successful, on my investing journey. So yeah, just keep that in mind. It's a long game. Don't get caught up in trying to become an overnight success or overnight millionaire. Now, granted, there are other opportunities that's out there that, if you're further along in your journey that you can take. Like, I'm looking into possibly day trading or, option trading, whatever have you. But I know I take that for what it is, because I know that I already have my long-term stuff already on the go, right? But once again, to each his own, is personal. But there are some things that you can take, that you can do to ensure that, you're successful. And as I mentioned, that can be, like I said, the biggest thing is that mindset. We can talk about money all day, but the thing is, it starts in your mind. It's how you think about things. And once you start thinking different, you start speaking different. Once you start speaking different, you start acting different. You see how that works? So yeah, I just wanted to come on here and share that with you, so it doesn't matter if you're already investing or you're looking at how to get started. This is just some general areas that I think that are just very important that you need to keep in mind as you start your wealth building journey. So with that, I'll holler at you guys in the next video.